One of the main things that we're going to have to cover with them at the start of things is going to be about safety. I know how much more confident I felt after listening to Brent and Louisa do that first teacher-only day session. And I went around and did the site tour. Part of that next step for you, for the students, will be thinking about how to convey that sense of security to them as they're coming from 1,600 different backgrounds of what's been happening to them and what's been going on. I've just thought about changing it slightly to look at things from the perspective of my class with me and the classroom that we're going to be in. They may come from science block, or they may have been upstairs in maths, and they're going to come into 103, and we'll look at the security and the safety of what that's going to actually be about. I'm going to look at what the drill is going to be that we're going to do in that particular classroom. And I know last time when we did it, somebody said, so, you know, if there's an earthquake, you know, what are we going to do? What about all that glass over there? And I kind of looked at it and thought, oh, they've got a really good point. And, you know, oh, look, I think when this is happening, we're going to actually move away from that glass. And then as a group, we just started about how it might be safer in our room to be dealing with that, as well as the conventional things that you put on top of that about staying where you are until the earthquake stops. The importance of you as the teacher in that leadership role, about feeling confident, not struggling confident, just confident for the students that you'll have in front of you. And in doing that, it can be really helpful to pre-think some answers to some questions that might come up, like, how do you know the ceiling won't fall down? Stick to facts. Look, I don't know it won't fall down, but I do know, despite some, inordinate amount of shaking, it hasn't, and the people who have been in have given us real assurances about that. Have you heard the one about the girls' highs going to boys' highs site? Yeah, there's a lot of rumours going around at the moment, and a lot of schools are moving sites. I don't know if that's one of them or not, but there is a lot of rumours. It's great to just stick with the facts of things as you know them, just answering them in a common sense, practical sort of a way. It's important to give them the opportunity to talk. Not to force the quiet ones to talk who don't want to talk. It's very therapeutic listening to other people's stories and knowing what's going on. It's very interesting to know what it's like for somebody else at the time. A way of dealing with this is perhaps to just lead in with your own story, just to begin it all. Hey, I was in the town hall when it happened, and all three of my girls were actually in town. Once we got together, everything seemed to just get better as we left town. What was it like for you? What happened with you? Could be a way of leading into it. Or if it's later, you've got those students after interval or after lunch, and you think they've already done earthquakes, perhaps just vary the question more. Perhaps some of us have had to do different things to help us to cope better than we've had to do before. I mean, my big one about digging a very deep hole in the back garden, one behind some bushes for during the day and one not behind bushes for night time, was different than anything I've had to do. Have any of you had to do anything to help your family to cope? Puts a bit of a different move forward onto things. It's absolutely okay to put some punctuation around this and to contain it so that it doesn't actually take on a life force of its own and take over the class. For example, the lesson I'm going to give at the moment, just to give you the overview, is going to look at safety. Then we're going to spend 20 minutes only just looking at some earthquake stuff, and then we'll go and move on to quadratic equations. I've always wanted to have that opportunity to say and we'll pick up where we left off from last week. So I've got it limited to this set period of time, and that's the punctuation that we're actually talking about here. It's about balance. It's about allowing the students to express themselves in a contained way that can give them some relief and some understanding of the situation of other people, but done in a safe and in a contained way. Having looked at the structure of the lesson, it's really important, I think, to return to the idea of normality again, and that's the idea of maintaining structures and routines. Not only will they provide security, but it does help to remind students of just why they are at school, which is about their learning. Some of our normal routines that we go into, like being here on time with the right equipment, you know, you just need to think through perhaps a little bit more. I had the thought that perhaps it would be a good idea for me to go into the resource room, pick up spare pens and a few refill pads of paper for those students who live in areas that's very full of silt, or they haven't seen their stuff because it's all got shoved away somewhere or repackaged, just that you've got some, you know, backup emergency supplies while you're getting these things re-established back in there. But it is absolutely fine to expect your normal class rules and routines to just swing back into place. You know, students are allowed to drink water. We want them to drink water, but they're not drinking Coke. Cell phones are away, or not on when they're in the classroom. If there's an emergency going on, they can let you know about it, or their parents will be ringing in through to the school. As always, people get spoken to with respect in the classroom. Classrooms will begin on time, especially as the days proceed and things become normal. Taking takes place when somebody's got something to say in class. These are the sorts of things that were normal when school was operating before, and these are the sorts of things that are going to be normal in coming back again. And normality is very good for people's security and well-being. And that's one of the reasons we click back into things being normal. We don't need to change the expectation about how our classrooms work, although for the next few days we'll probably be thinking about how we deliver our lessons. People are having trouble processing information. You know, have you heard people saying, oh, I've got quake brain? I can't seem to hold anything into my head for 2 minutes, at any given time. Hey, look, take that into consideration when you're planning. It's a very real phenomenon. Perhaps use some visuals instead of doing what I'm doing now, just blah, 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 blah. It can help. If their concentration isn't, as good, and they're saying it will be shorter at the moment than it used to be. Do a 10 or a 15-minute delivery followed by a short activity. Or think about a half-an-hour learning session and then pack that to one side and move on to a different type of an activity. That lets the brain readjust and refocus in there. You may want to think about the unit of work, and this is really a genuine story. I was in the middle of a unit on courage that I was doing. It's against the odds, and in it there's a story of a landslide that happens in a ski resort, and this guy gets trapped in the building. Have decided it's not the best unit of work to kick off. And just do that kind of thinking about what it is you're going to be doing and how it is that you're going to be doing it. If in using that BC, before crisis thought, it lets you just monitor how the student's getting along, because the facts are really in our favour. 90 to 95% of the students are going to be absolutely fine, robust and resilient over time. It's going to be good. And part of the reason it's going to be good is around the sorts of things that we're going to start doing, and around the sorts of things that we do and we do well. So in summary, normality, maintain normal structures and routines as much as possible. Safety, help students to feel safe. Give them the opportunity to talk. Don't force them to talk, give them the opportunity to talk. Be thoughtful and considerate around the length of activities and the structure that you're putting into your lesson. And remember nuance. That's that BC. What were they like before? What are they like after? And just be confident about what you do well.